Hey, Nation, back with the well-known and well-loved Mike Simmel. How you doing, Mike?
Doing great, Harry. How are you today?
Good, good. Boy, always a pleasure to talk to you. And the talks we have, good Lord, car racing, first responders, uh, technology, and of course compliance. And I want to have one of those kind of talks with you. Just I don't really have an agenda. The topic is you've been very, very busy the past 6 months in the community, both with vendors and the MSPs and different organizations. You've kept yourself busy. So, what's going on out there with the MSPs, with cybersecurity, with compliance? What's the buzz? Is we're approaching mid fourth quarter.
Okay, well, everybody kind of got distracted by COVID, but that didn't stop several things from happening in my world, which is the compliance world. Since 2003, I've kind of looked at IT through a lens of compliance because when I was an MSP, it helped me differentiate my company. And I had all my competitors fighting with each other over technical products and services. And I was talking to the CEOs and the doctors and the people that owned the organizations or led the organizations about how I could help them secure their data, but also comply with their regulations. So I was an MSP. I sold the same things as everyone else. We just talked about it differently. What's happened in the compliance world over the last few months is that HIPAA has been enforced at a pretty high level. So HIPAA started out the beginning of the year quiet. And then, of course, with COVID, the agency that enforces HIPAA was helping people make sure that they could get ventilators and things like that. So they were in the thick of things at the beginning of COVID and relaxing some of the rules on telehealth and other stuff. But then in July, they started issuing more penalties. And in September, on a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday, they issued 3 penalties, big ones, but they all had the same underlying risk or the underlying causes. And that was that the organizations had not done a good risk analysis to identify their risks. And because they didn't do that, then they didn't provide the cybersecurity that they needed to prevent the incidents, which were data breaches, lost laptops, and things like that from happening. So this has been my mantra for years, and that is you got to do a good risk analysis. You can't just answer a bunch of questions and get some phony seal of compliance. You need to have tests done on the network. You have to look for where data is really hiding and what people are really doing. And these 3 penalties right in a row were all based on that. So, the message to MSPs is that clients don't need a risk analysis. They need an accurate and thorough risk analysis. That's what the penalties specify. The other thing that's going on is outside of healthcare. So it's not all HIPAA when it comes to compliance. The Department of Defense is going to roll out this new regulation called CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification for all defense contractors. And that's been planned, and that's going to be a 5-year rollout to 2025. However, in September, after they surveyed a whole bunch of defense contractors and found out how lax they were in the current compliance requirements, they came out with what they call an interim rule and said that if you're a defense contractor and you want to get a new contract effective November 30th of 2020, as in like a month and a half, or just a month, really, that you're going to have to do an accurate self-scoring of your implementation of all 110 cybersecurity controls in the NIST 800-171 document, and then post your score to a federal website. So that's huge. And we just came out with our CMMC compliance for profit system to help MSPs do that.
Yeah. No, you've been busy. Final question. And again, I'm having water, by the way. This is not a kegger, a keg party full of beers. So just to be clear, but
I didn't see any foam on your lips.
Yeah, no, but let me tell you, when I did the resource kit in the 2000 era, back when they had resource kits, one of the ways we wrote the resource kit was we monitored the news groups, right? The small business server news groups and Yahoo and Microsoft itself. And we could take the questions that people were answering. That generated a lot of our content. Like, I can't I can't print, blah, blah, I can't print.
Mhm.
Okay. And we're like, oh, well, we better have a section on how to print from small business server. And I'm oversimplifying. With the webinars you're doing, you work with a couple leading ISV, couple leading vendors in our space. Shoot from the hip. Maybe one or two questions you're hearing along the same lines? What are people posting up and are concerned other than COVID? And maybe you've already answered that question. I'm just having fun with you.
No, it's a good question. And it usually has to do with objections, Harry. And
Okay.
people know that and MSPs know that their clients need their services. And it's not just compliance. So I had a good friend of mine that I've known for a long, long time, probably as long as I've known you. And he's an MSP out in California.
Okay.
And he called me up and he was so frustrated. And he said, Mike, why aren't prospects buying the cybersecurity tools that I know they need? I said, Joe, the answer's in your question. You know they need it, but they don't.
Yeah.
And part of this gets down to educating the client before you try to make your sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just threatening them, you have to do this because the law says. It's understanding what business they're in and showing them some examples of organizations, whether they're in the same industry or not. Here's how many people know that ransomware costs $8,500 an hour. These are things that come out of some of the studies in the survey. So I'm doing a presentation tomorrow for a national group, and I've got one of their executive directors, like the client side, who's going to be doing it with me. And he said to me this morning as we were going through the slide deck, I never knew ransomware costs $8,500 an hour. That's a number that if you talk to a CEO or you talk to a business owner and you say, that ransomware costs $8,500 an hour, it's something you really ought to pay attention to, they'll pay attention. But if you talk about ransomware and we've got all these great tools and we're going to do phishing simulation training and all that stuff, you're selling them something that they don't know that they need. But if you can simply educate them to something like, ransomware is $8,500 an hour and I can help you prevent it, they're going to go, well, how can you do that? That's your opening. A lot of times MSPs, and I was one, I was guilty too. I'm not criticizing anybody. They want to talk about the solution before they've gotten the clients to realize they have a problem.
I know. We've all been there. Well, let's
Harry,
make that.
You write books with all the answers, but you got to make sure that the people know what the question is before you can sell your book.
No, exactly. And I'll wrap on that because we were doing some of that. We were monitoring those news groups. And if you're consistently getting an I can't print, right, well, then we better have a section on how to print. And trust me, it was much more sophisticated. But hey, we're out of time, Mike. Thanks for pitching in and being a friend of the family. We'll see you next time.
Great to see you, Harry.